Hey, good morning. This is Ron. It is Saturday morning, a little after 10 a.m. It's December 7th already. Year is this month is well underway. So, do we have any questions? How do you want to start this morning? Anyone have any questions about anything?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. This is Angela. I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Um, I've I've been hearing a lot of people say, but I just wondered before we were in our physical physical bodies, I've heard that we chose our assignment came before we was put in the physical body, meaning our parents and whatever we were supposed to do on earth before it was something like a contract or something that we signed that we said that we'll be able to do complete this I'm not I want to say task, but that's not the word that I want to say. I can't think of the word, but yeah, I just heard a couple of people saying that. I just wanted to ask the question. Now that
Okay. Thank you, Angela. Everyone, we have a question on the floor. Anybody care to address Angela's question?
I've heard that also, but because I have not been able to find anything that really speaks to that in such a way that I could embrace it. I I just leave it alone. If it's something that I can't find more research on, I dismiss it. So I would not be the one to address that because I don't actually believe it. So
Well, I know when we looked at the book of, I think it was Isaiah 6, and we studied those first six chapters, I think, looking at that. My belief is, and as what you just said, Pastor, I don't have any concrete evidence to this, but I do believe that some, certainly not all, that had assignments before we were born. I believe that. I believe that it is in a space where there's no such thing as time, and all of us, uh, spiritually, there were some that maybe volunteered to do certain things or to bring certain messages. There is, as you said, no concrete evidence of that, but just on based on that part of the scripture that we looked at, uh, I think that is certainly possible. Anyone else have a thought or question or Angela, I believe where we are now in our studies, uh, as you've heard me say before, we're at a place where we not necessarily questioned what we've seen or talked about before, but we're certainly open to possibilities of seeing things and feeling and experiencing what we see or think we, may have seen in the past. So our study is a little different now. And whereas, before that would be something that, as I say, I went to Isaiah, and that was the first thing that I thought about when you asked the question, because we have kind of sort of explored that. But just reluctant to ask questions, answer questions that we probably don't have a foundation on or something to kind of lead us in a certain direction. Uh, can you hold on to that and let's see if we can down the line readdress it at some other time.
Yeah, that's fine. I kind of look at it like, I'm not saying that it couldn't be possible, but I see it like y'all said, there's no really foundation on it, so ain't
Yeah.
really so. Yeah.
I, I do think it is possible, and like I say, I would not say that is true for everybody, but it certainly is possible. Okay, but thank you.
Good
Thank you.
morning, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
Ron, this is Evelyn. Good morning, family. I've
Morning.
heard the same thing, Angela. Also, Dolores Cannon, and we've talked about this before. Dolores Cannon, she talks about past life regressions, and she goes into depth about it. So, if you want to listen to it or read about it, from Dolores Cannon's standpoint, she breaks it down real simple for anybody to understand it. But I know what you're talking about, Angela.
If
You're
you
not
don't mind,
alone.
if you don't mind me asking a question, Dolores Cannon, I'm not familiar with her.
She's a white lady, and she's psychic or whatever. But she has books, numerous books out there about people. People coming to do a purpose here on Earth to learn, and how they've been here. People have been here before, reincarnation, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, her name is Dolores Cannon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
You're
Evelyn.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else? Anyone else with any insight or information on that? Hey, Audrey, how are you?
Good morning. Don't we all have a purpose in terms of discovering who we are? I mean, isn't that ultimately our purpose?
Without a doubt. Pastor, you care to elaborate?
It is. I do believe that all of us have a purpose, but the thing that got me was the contract.
Yeah, the contract kind of got me too. I didn't know that. I've never heard it from that perspective, but
Because uh, the scriptures are replete with reincarnation. So, and as far as purpose, I do believe we have purpose in the earth. Whether or not we fulfill it is up to us.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the question and the responses to it. Anyone else? A question, comment?
Did we talk about what it looks like as above it, so is below in relationship to our mind and our spirit?
No, sir. You have some insight, something that you like to share with us, of course, even if we have.
Um, I asked because I had made a note about as above, so is below, being your mind is below and your spirit is above.
Yes.
Did I talk about that?
I don't recall it. Anybody remember any?
I
Okay.
don't either.
Okay. Um, your mind is below, meaning that your mind focuses on and is guided by, or influenced, not guided. Guided is a bad choice of words. Influenced by what your eyes see, and above is dealing with actually the third eye, the spiritual essence of who you are, and the objective. When we talk about as above, so is below, that means that our mind is influenced by the eye as opposed to the eyes. and our mind is no longer the overshadowing influence in our life, so that the things that we see, the distractions that we encounter, all of those things are no longer influential to us. And that's how we make as above, so is below. It has to be with you before it can be with anyone. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Are we born with that
I
eye?
hear some background noise. Go ahead, Ron.
Are we born with our eye uh already open, or is that something we need to develop? Is that when does that, is it always there, I guess? Is it always active, or is it something we have to activate?
Would you make sure that your phones are that you are muted, please? Thank you. I believe that when you come into the earth, your eye is open at the very least partially, and that's where the invisible playmates come from. And I believe that we spiritually classify the third eye by the introduction of the things in this world being everything that is, as opposed to teaching our children the spiritual essence of who they are. Example, the reason the Kemites taught the children that too about the universe and their spiritual essence is so that they would not be calcified by the world, by the things around them. They would not be, their eyes would not be their primary source of understanding, but their eye would be.
Yeah.
And right now, that is one of our greatest struggles is the decalcifying our third eye for the express purpose of being able to see what is as opposed to what the illusions are, and not being influenced by what we see. The power of our eyes over our eye was shown to us when we, after the election, the place that we went in terms of how we felt, that was because of our eyes, that was because of our mind. It had nothing to do with our spiritual essence of the third eye. It was the third eye that brought us back.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Is the same thing as seeing through a veil? That the decalcification is like a veil, and until you tear that veil, you really can't see with the third eye,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
like a film or something that, like cataracts in a sense. You
Yes.
can't see clearly.
That's how I see it, Barbara.
I can see that.
And we're in the process of doing that now. I believe that we are closer than ever to being influenced primarily by our eye as opposed to the world around us. The physical environment, the purpose of it is to show us how to be creators, to show us how to be God. The reason we are struggling with that is because of how we have been taught since our birth. The other reason I believe is we don't know. As long as we travel this journey, we don't have a clear picture of how to be Ptah, to be Elohim. We don't have that clarity, and we are in the process of getting that clarity. I do believe we're closer than we think we are. When I say closer, I'm talking about we have a deeper sense of awareness about what the experiences are like when you are influenced by the I as opposed to the eyes. Being Ptah or Elohim, which are the same, gives us opportunity to have that God experience. It's impossible to have that God experience if the third eye, the pineal gland, is calcified. Whether it's calcified by erroneous information or calcified on purpose by fluoride or some of the other substances that's in the food that calcifies the pineal gland. And it may sound far-fetched, but that's a reality. And historically, that's a historical reality about the purpose for the calcifying the third eye, which means that it makes it more difficult for us to see the necessity of being one with the universe and understanding the essence of who we are.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past we've talked about in the book of Thomas, that saying about if the two become one, you'll say to the mountain, move. And we talked about it being the subconscious and the conscious. Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same thing.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning.
Are there any, 1 second, George. Are there any questions about what Audrey asked, or do you understand the question and the response?
This is for Mel.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a little bit more about the subconscious and the conscious becoming one? What that may look like?
It's no difference than when I talked about the eyes and the third eye. The third eye is subconsciousness. The eyes are consciousness. And when the consciousness become one with the unconscious, when the eyes become one with the third eye, when they become one, that is when we become Elohim, are able to function as Elohim.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I hope was that clear, Ramel?
That was clear. I think I have to digest it a little bit more.
Audrey, would you address that, please?
I think it's equivalent to the mind and the spirit. When you believe something fully in your inner self,
Mm-hmm.
then if your mind or your body doesn't line up with it, then you tend to have confusion or trouble or just confused
Chaos.
thoughts.
Okay.
But when your mind and your spirit align, then you can see clearly what the truth is and how you need to respond. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank- Anyone else?
So the spiritual eye must influence the mind or the thing or the physical eyes
Yes,
instead of the other way around. That's the one that's when the mind is influenced, what the eyes see are not what influence us, because that's what we see illusions through. But when the eye influences the mind, then that's the oneness that we're talking about.
that's right. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just one of the things that I want to add in this about your eyes versus your eye. I'm privileged enough that I engage a blind person, and engaging this blind person, I find their dialogue, whether they are responding to a question or igniting a question, I find their conversation and just dealing with them very fascinating. And one of the things that I gather in dealing with this blind person, I find his questions to be very balanced. And when I look at people who are sighted, such as I am, if I rely on my sight, my eyes, I'm going to give a good answer, a better answer, or a gooder answer. And I do realize good is not a word. Yet with that blind person that I deal with, their answers are balanced. So if you want to develop that inner eye, close your eyes and see what the response is compared to giving a response to with your eyes open. If I ask that blind man, hey, what's your thoughts on a platonic relationship? People married and they have outside relationships. His response is going to be balanced. People responses who rely on their eyes,
George,
even if they are familiar with.
may-
I'm sorry, y'all.
are
Y'all go
you
ahead.
saying, no, are you saying valid or balanced?
Balance. I find that the individual that is blind, I find his answers to be balanced. And I find that people such as myself who can see, I find my answers to be geared more toward what's a better answer. And better answer or right answer does not mean that it's a balanced answer. So I'm just saying one of the things that I do, sometimes I listen to y'all lessons in my truck with my curtain closed and it's dark. And I hear certain things when it's 2:00 in the morning and my curtains are closed. And I mean, I can't even see my hand in front of my face. I walk away with a different perspective of the lesson. So I'm just asking you, Reverend Richard, you said you were the Shabaka Stone. Find a dark place to go to. And see what takes place in training your inner eye, because our outer eyes, that's the dilemma, or the quandary. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
The senses are more sensitive when your eyes are closed. As a matter of fact, your focus and you hear they are sharper when your eyes are closed. There are no distractions. You can be in a dark room and your eyes are open and you hear something, or you listen at a lesson, as you said, you will hear more than you would if you were in a room with objects, because subconsciously your eyes are also focusing on the objects. However, in that darkness, the focus is single, and that single focus is on what you're hearing. So I see the validity in being more focused in the sharper hearing in a darker place. What I'm talking about more specifically, I suppose, is the third eye being the focal point, and being in a dark room does not decalcify the third eye. As a matter of fact, being in a dark room doesn't have any more effect on the third eye than being in light itself, because the functionality of the third eye is totally different than that of the physical eyes or the mind itself, which is more in tune with the physical world. Does that help, George? Or does it make sense?
Well, Rev, some parts of it make sense. I'm not saying I'm all the way 100, and I can't speak for every blind person. All I can say is that experience with that blind person, I find to be very fascinating.
Okay.
Yet, the question I do have for you, is darkness really the unknown? Or is it, I'm looking at that, just that experience. I'm looking at darkness as darkness is not the unknown. Or it could be the unknown. Yes, something in there that gonna be known. Or is light also an unknown arena, if you follow what I'm saying? Thanks.
Darkness is the seat of, or the home, I should say, maybe, of wisdom. And this dark wisdom is darkness because it's unknown. It's not understood. And when we say enlighten me, don't keep me in the dark, we're talking about help me to understand what you just said, or help me understand this principle of wisdom. Darkness is also a reminder of the wisdom that surrounds us constantly. And the availability, the daylight reminds us of the availability of enlightenment if we look at them spiritually. Also, darkness grants us the opportunity to be ourselves, especially to feel ourselves when we're asleep. For example, between 10 and 5 at night, the body begins to be re-energized when it's at rest, and the bulk of the energy in the body moves to the brain to declutter the brain while you're asleep. When you go through those stages when it feels like you can't move, it's because that energy that left that body to go to the brain to declutter it has not returned to the rest of the body. Your body is not devoid of energy, but there's less energy in your body when that happens. The other part of that is the darkness during the darkness between 3 and 5, that is when the energy of the sun begins to return to the earth. And as we wake up, that our bodies are re-energized from the day before. So darkness plays a major role in everything that we do. Darkness is only negative when we look at darkness from the material, through the material eyes. When we talk about someone who murders a whole family being in a dark place, that dark place is dealing with what's in this material world. But when we look at darkness from the spiritual, through the spiritual eye, darkness is never negative, it's always positive. As a matter of fact, there is absolutely no negativity in spirituality at all. The presence of negativity is created in the earth by those who do not know who they are, and those who are abusing without knowing it the energy that they have been endowed with for various reasons, most of which are selfish. So when we talk about darkness, that is a lesson within itself. As far as the scripture says that if your eye is dark, your whole body is dark. If your eye is light, then your whole body is filled with light. Meaning that if you don't know how to use or know the purpose of your third eye, then your whole body is dark. Meaning that you have no understanding of the wisdom that's around you. You have no understanding of spirituality. When your eye is open, and it does say eye, it does not say eyes. When your eye is open, your whole body is filled with light, meaning that you are very much aware of the spiritual nature of your being, and that this house that you live in called a body is not who you really are. It simply is a vehicle that we carry around in the earth for the express purpose of for the express purpose of becoming who we were created to be. Does that make sense, guys?
It does, but some of it makes sense, Pastor Jay, but I have a question on that.
I want to know which part
Okay.
doesn't.
I'm processing, and I know eventually it will come to me, but my thing is, if we didn't have all these labels of darkness, light, and maybe it's just me now, I think we could comprehend or understand things more if we didn't have all these labels.
Well,
And my question to you, and one more thing. Let me ask you this too. In the beginning, we were just being, right? Just being. And it's like the more we evolved, the more things started latching on to the spirit. I guess when we came into these bodies, and then we came in contact with the European mindset, it's like the religion started putting these feelings into containers, which is labels. And to me, that's why some things that we talk about, it's hard for me to grasp at sometimes. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, may I help you with that?
Yes, please.
It's not that we are labeling things. That's not it at all. Light and darkness those terms have been in existence forever. The problem is that we try to define everything as opposed to letting them be what they are or what they were brought into the earth to be. Rather than make an effort to define everything, we are to embrace them for what they are. There is nothing in spiritual nature, spiritual essence, that gives any negative connotations about darkness. It is our attaching those things that are antithetical to divinity that brings about negativity. So it's not so much a label. You got to name it something, light or darkness, if what you attach to it by virtue of trying to define it the way you want it to be. Does that make sense?
It does. I get that part. And I'm not saying we label it. I'm just saying how I just feel that if we would just be and just go with the flow of things, this is just me now.
I wonder what that looks
I
like.
think we'll get, what I'm saying, you'll get clarity. You'll feel, to me, I just feel that it'll be just feelings. You'll be feeling and just being. Maybe I'm not explaining how I'm seeing this, but the more, and like you just said, we will define stuff. We try to define so many things when all we need to do is just be. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. Let me ask you this. Are you saying that, for example, as an example, okay, that these terms, light, darkness, righteousness, unrighteousness, these terms, are you saying that if we were to let them be what they are supposed to be, then we'll get a greater clarity? However, we cannot dispute the reality that religion has attached different meanings to these words that are contrary to what they were from the beginning, as light and darkness. And we find it difficult to detach ourselves from those labels or those definitions that have been attached to light and darkness. Because if you were to ask the average person about darkness, their mind automatically goes to something negative. That's because of our mindset in this earth. However, if we are talking about darkness from a spiritual place, there are no negative connotations to that word darkness. And a great example, I think, is there are some guys who we were meeting with once, and one of them said that women are darkness. And the reason he said that is because wisdom is feminine, and women, but he meant it in a different way. He meant it by virtue of what happened with Adam and Eve, which was totally off base. Females are darkness. Femininity is darkness simply because it is wisdom. So I don't quite know how to say it any different than to say that the words that we use have always been in use with spirituality. It is the way we define them or describe them that causes the confusion that you're talking about. With someone
That's just what you just answered, how I was feeling. You just laid it out there. I accept that. That resonates with me. So okay. I got that. Yeah, you did it I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I like to address this as well, and I hope I don't add more confusion to it. You hear me talking about that little book that I like, The Spirit of Intimacy. The reason why I like that book is because I wanted to know what life uh, unpolluted to an African community looks like. And that is what I see there, the beauty of how they live. In that book, they address child rearing. They address marriage and what marriage looks like to them. They address the spirits, which they call them. They don't say God, they say the spirits. They address the ancestors. Uh, they talk about the village raising your children, whereas you may go looking for your child and your child is playing with some other children. You don't disturb that. You allow that to be. Uh, when you marry, it's not just you and one person coming together. Uh, so you are literally one of many, and you are the community and the community with you. It talks about homosexuality, which they call gatekeepers. It's nothing negative. They talk about the cycle of a woman, which is nothing negative. They see it as a highly spiritual thing. So to me, we may look at them and say they're in poverty. They have no means of comfort like we do. They live in a village or whatever, but at the same time they are very rich people in character, in heart, in love, in community, and understanding who they are. And so that is a very tough position to gain or to see living in America. We are constantly uh, moved to see things from the culture or lack thereof that we live in. We are constantly influenced by things that speak louder and more often than we do. So the importance of what we're doing is we're making an attempt anyway to reduce that clutter that is in us and see things from a spiritual perspective and understand what it means to be a community or to be one nation. So that's how I see Evelyn's question. They don't uh, address the things that we address in the manner we do. It's that if this person is down, or if this person needs this or that, the community come together, and what they call it is bringing you in the circle, and they figure out what it is to that is needed. And so that to me is what comes to my mind when we have these type of discussions. To be the spiritual beings and live that way that we are intended to be, without the confusion and all the other distractions. And like I said, I hope that helped a little bit, not added more confusion.
It did. I think when you mentioned community, that's something that we don't talk a lot about. When we look at what the Kushites or Twambuchi people, first people on earth, if we want to understand community, I think we have to look at that. If you remember how communities were set up before integration, they were set up exactly the way the communities came into existence from the beginning. There was the family structure, and outside of the immediate family structure, there is extended family. And all of them live in the same area. And connected to that area are other families that are the same way. The nucleus, extended family, and others around, all that's connected, that's community. And the purpose of community is to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And when I say taken care of, I'm not just talking about everyone has enough to eat or a place to live. I'm talking about love and kindness. I'm talking about this expression of affection. I remember talking to the nurses in Haiti, and I've said this to you before. There were 2 nuns in an orphanage with over 200 babies. And some of the babies died from the lack of affection. And when the babies were crying, the nuns were saying they're not hungry. They simply want somebody to touch them. Community gives you human touch in a physical way. That's why we embrace each other, human touch. That's why we touch each other in terms of that. We, touchy feely when we talk. I'm not talking about the handshake because that's something totally different from the way it came into existence. I'm talking about the embracing of each other,
Yeah.
the love that you show towards each other. That's community. Where we live now, for the most part, is not community. We live detached from each other. And at best, we have the nucleus community, but the extended family structure is totally different than what it was when we grew up. The extended family structure was broken down, and the thing that broke it is capitalism. Capitalism and indoctrination. I got what I need, or what do you bring to the table type attitude. That's the kind of attitude that we have developed. But when we had community, there were no kings and queens in our communities, but there were leaders. There were people who everyone went to for guidance or to help them get through things. And now we just don't have that. Excuse me. And when we talk about balance, when we talk about bringing humanity to a place of balance, what we are actually talking about is redeveloping the community. That's what we're talking about, reestablishing what community really is, as opposed to what we have right now. I'm done. Questions?
Evelyn,
Huh?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask Evelyn if you have another comment or did that help?
Yeah, Ron, that resonates with me so deeply. And you know what? While y'all were talking, Pastor was talking, I'm sorry. I remember he was talking about community. I remember in our neighborhood, in Blythewood, when something happens, would have happened to a child or anybody, we went to the elders. We had neighbors. I remember when I cut my foot on a piece of glass, and it was this one lady in the neighborhood. She went in the corner of her room and got some cobwebs and put it on my cut, and it healed it just like that. They didn't take us to the doctor back then. I remember my sister got burned by fire. That same lady, that wisdom, that African, she talked the fire out of my sister. So we had all that. That's rich. That to me, that's more than money. That was priceless. We had each other. So when Pastor talks about the community, I remember those days. I cherish those days. So Pastor, I'm with you. I hear you, and what you're saying resonates with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And back in those days, we didn't realize, or maybe we did, what we had. We were thinking that we had less, and there was, but we were the richest people in the whole town. and did not realize it until it was too late or integration came about. But we had we you know, in those regards, I had a good childhood, and in memory, the things you know, as you guys talk, what it was like growing up, especially early when I was real young.
We felt like we felt like we could not be whole unless we were with white folks. That's what integration was all about. Integration was not about breaking up a community, but the elders knew it was going to be destroyed with integration. Think about it. No one came from the white community to our schools or to us. We were forced to go to them. Everything we had shut down. That's when our communities were destroyed. The beginning of the destruction of our community was in 1954 with Brown versus the Board of Education. It could have been done differently. So what do we do now? Here we are doing what we do, and that is reorganizing the structure of community, being inclusive of everyone as opposed to being exclusive. One of the things that we don't think about is we have never been exclusive of anyone. We have always been excluded, but we did not exclude other people because of how they looked.
Yeah.
And now what we are saying, by virtue of talking about bringing balance to humanity, we are talking about erasing the lines of division, not blurring them, but erasing them, so that there are no lines that separate us. The idea earlier when you were talking about third world, when we talked earlier this week, Ron, you talking about the third world. That was a conscious effort to create the separation between people, because when we talk about the third world, we hear that all the time, but we don't talk about the first and second world. Have any one of you heard anyone talk about the first and second world? But have heard them talk about the third world. Have you heard all three of them discussed? Don't everyone speak at the same time.
No. No,
No.
sir, I have not.
No.
Why have you not heard that? Because if there was the third world, there has to be a first and a second, doesn't it?
Yes.
The first world consists of Europeans, capitalism, all the money, all the control, all the manipulation. That's the first world. And in the first world, Christianity and Judaism are king. The second world is people of color, Japan, China, Malaysia. That's a buffer between us and the first world. Arab, second world. The third world is Africans, period. Africans, period. You can say Haitians, I don't care what you call them, they're still Africans. That's the third world. So when you hear third world, you hear a discussion that's not being verbalized about who is superior. White supremacy is what you are hearing when you hear the third world discussed. And it's only where it is because of the first words, greed and maliciousness. And the second world is simply a buffer between us and them. And their purpose is to be used against us. How come you can't be like the Asians? Why is it that you are poor and Asians come to this country and organize their neighborhoods and own everything in their neighborhood? How come you can't do that? Because every effort we put forth to do that, you tear it down. Please understand this. Africans are third. I don't care how much money you have. You are still considered third world because it speaks more than to money. It also speaks to influence and power. And the Africans have no influence and power politically on this earth, period. They are allowed to have some power. Think about the power to create a country. Britain created a country. Britain separated India and Pakistan. Britain formed Pakistan by separating a landmass, the land, or by putting a boundary between a country. They divided a country, and the one of them remained India, the other Pakistan. They created a country. So what am I saying to you? Until we understand how the structures, family structures were dismantled, it's going to be difficult for us to recognize balance when we see it. It's going to be difficult for us to understand that balance is simply the creation of communities, bringing them into places where they never existed and revitalizing them in places where they have always existed. I'm done.
Okay, so I got one more question. Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, remember last week I asked about Revelations when God says, I know that you are rich. Is that not the same thing as having a community? And it's not about materialism or anything like that. So can you tie that into what you just said, please?
First of all, community has nothing to do with material things. Community is spiritual. The results of the spirituality in the community is seen in how we take care of each other. The manifestation of that is one of the things that you said, the lady who talked the fire out of you. Most people probably not heard of that. My Aunt Martha used to do that with people. The lady in the community, in our community, they use sugar to put in the wound when we got cut, soot from the stove. So all of these things have nothing to do with money. They have everything to do with love, affection. And when we think we were convinced that things were going to make us who we are, and we were taught to strive to gather things so we could be accepted. But in our communities, we were actually taught simply to take care of each other. I remember leaving, going to college, and I remember hearing these words, don't forget where you came from. And I remember having this deep desire to come back home to change things for the people who were in bondage. I did not want young people to grow up and have no choices. To me, what did that mean? it was them getting out of the places where we were stuck, which was another way of destroying our communities. Because in order to be able to take care of yourself, you had to leave, especially small towns. You had to leave, and that was done on purpose to destroy our communities. So when we talk about being wealthy, being rich, the richness of us is a knowledge of self. The greatest wealth that you can ever have is the knowledge of self. Because if you don't know who you are, regardless of how much money you have, you live in poverty. And you are at the whim of whoever controls what you have.
I guess when I think of riches, I think of the, the expression, the spiritual man knows all things. Uh, that word I think was distorted as well. Riches, when I think of it, is as we said, the community was one. So when you say the spiritual man knows all things, like Evelyn said, there was somebody in the community, uh, one of y'all said anyway, that knew medicine, how to heal. There was somebody, they weren't called kings and queens, but there was somebody to give advice. There was somebody that you can go and talk to about anything so uh that was the spiritual man that the community was. So everything that we valued became distorted to the point that we didn't even recognize it anymore.
And
Well, one of the things that just want to let y'all know, the more rich you are in the physical, the more you're going to need security. The more rich you are in the spiritual realm, the less likely you need. Matter of fact, you don't even need security. People will protect you without you even knowing about it. So if someone gives you $500 million, you're going to have to spend about $250 million just for protection. Because somebody don't rob you, and the person that robbed you will probably be a sibling, a family member. So if you want to be rich spiritually, the less likely you would need a security detail. And when you are rich spiritually, as far as giving and looking out and extending your hand back, people will protect you. And you may not even know what took place. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
That is true with our wealth, security detail. However, I've never had $500 million, but I had a security detail when I was 19 years old. From the time from 19 till I came back to South Carolina. So I see it a little bit differently in terms of security details. I see it more as your mindset being geared toward the acquisition of things, or your priority is to get monetarily wealthy, as opposed to realizing that you're spiritually wealthy. And I've had people to tell me, you can't take that spiritual wealth to the store. But my spiritual wealth, I don't have to carry it to the store. My spiritual wealth brings the store to me. So I'm not saying that you throw everything away in terms of material things, because you need some of them to live. But that should not be a priority. Most Black folk in this country, when they talk about anything in terms of finances, they say, what? I just want to be comfortable. I want to be able to take care of my family. I want to be able to have some leisure time. I want to travel. That's usually the goal. And then we get laughed at for that because that's all you want. Well, why would I want enough money to control and manipulate people? If it comes, it comes. But if it doesn't, then it's okay. It's okay. It's, we can't be separated based upon zip codes and finances. The until we, as a people, alleviate the fear that we have for each other, we will not experience balance in this earth. I'm not saying that everyone will know that they are God or even accept it if they know it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that all Africans are going to embrace the reality that regardless of where you were born, you're still an African. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that the attitude towards each other, regardless of where we are, must be one of unicity as opposed to our fear of each other. We are the vanguard that was brought into this earth for the express purpose of being the gods in this earth. And until we embrace that, when I say we, I'm not talking about everyone. I'm simply talking about you guys on the phone, all of us. When you look at what is said about Jesus and 12 disciples changing the world, that is actually Haru. Well, that came from Haru and the 12 disciples of Haru, which really was a spiritual entity who had principles that we were guided by for the express purpose of changing the world, bringing the world to a place of oneness. And that is our goal, our purpose. And if for a moment you think that is an impossibility, then I do believe that you should give more thought to your reason for being in these sessions, because these sessions are indeed geared toward changing the world. And I believe with everything in me, the world will never be changed by money or votes. The world will be changed by a knowledge of self and spiritual unicity. Meaning that the pineal gland, there's the eye must be open. And you can decalcify your eye by your desires through your meditation. And in doing so, you will begin to see clearer. And when I talk about seeing clearer, having clarity, it's not necessarily clarity in understanding Shabbat Stone, even though that's extremely important, but there's also clarity in the way you live your life. It's also clarity about how you interact with people. The day is going to come when we're going to begin to see that these games are going to end. And the games of which I speak is trying to play both sides against the middle, pretending to be someone who you're not. Not being able to live with your neighbor, or not desiring to treat people right or treat people the way you want to be treated. It's going to come to an end. I do believe that. I believe very strongly. And it is my desire that those who have no interest in treating people the way they want to be treated, it is my desire that you find someplace else to go, because this is not for you. And I would not want anything to happen to you spiritually as a result of your playing both sides of gangsterism. We are in a place now that we have never been in, and the space that we are in it is vital that we stay focused and stop playing games. I do believe that the inauguration of this administration, be it Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, the inauguration of this administration will be a trigger point where we are going to be who we were created to be in terms of bringing balance to the earth, or we are going to fall by the wayside. This is not, it's almost like, I think it's in Judges, where Gideon has this large number of contingency of soldiers, and God says to Gideon, take them to the stream to drink, and those who lap water like a dog, leave them. In other words, he ended up, out of 1,000, he ended up with 300 soldiers. Why? Because the intent, the focus of the rest of them was not the battle that was before them. The focus of the focus of the battle was with those who drank water from their hand while they looked around and stayed focused on the reason they were there, as opposed to losing sight of their reasoning for being there. And I do believe that we are nearing that place, that breaking point at the inception or the inauguration of this administration. I don't know about you, but I feel very strongly that something big is about to happen. And I'm not the only one who feels that, but I do. I feel very strongly that something huge is about to take place, something that we've never experienced before. I notice how we have left religion in terms of the way we, our sessions, the way we conduct ourselves. We have moved away from religion and begun to speak more spiritually, meaning that you speaking spiritually is also speaking historically. You cannot speak spiritually without speaking historically. And religion does not want us to speak historically, because religion is a tool of manipulation. And if it allows you to think for yourself, then it loses control over you. We talked about calcification of the pineal gland. I was sharing with someone that Hitler was known to, as they say, study the occult. What they mean by that is something negative, of course, but what's being said is that Hitler understood quite a bit of Kemetic spirituality. Hitler had scientists studying cuneiform as well as studying to understand hieroglyphics. It is said he had up to 200 scientists doing that. And during the course of when he came to power, rather, what he started doing was fluoridating the water in Germany. He started putting fluoride in the water. And the reason he did it is because he knew that it will calcify the pineal gland. And he wanted to distort the possibilities of people thinking for themselves and being able to embrace and utilize the pineal gland for seeing what is and what is to come, thinking outside of the material world. So he started putting fluoride in the water for that express purpose. And the war ended in 1945, and America started putting fluoride in the water in 1945 after they brought the German scientists from Germany to this country. You figure it out. Oh, the reason they did that. So what I'm saying to you is what's meant for your bad is actually for your good. You have the ability to override the calcification of your pineal gland, regardless of what they used to calcify it. The light in your pineal gland, your pineal gland, has the ability to remove that calcification from around it. The reason he calcified it is because he knew that if light could not leave, light would not come in. So it was simply light inside of a tool that you had that you could not have access to, because for one part of it, you didn't know it existed. And the other part of it is that if you didn't know it exists, you would not have interludes with things that were being shown to you from outside of the realm of this environment. So there are so many other things that are used for that purpose, the calcification of the pineal gland. And you may think that I'm crazy, but that's okay. I probably am in regards to the classical way of thinking. But if I am, then please explain to me why is it the pine cone that represents the pineal gland is a huge monument in the Vatican? And why is it that the Pope's staff has the pine cone on it? They understand very clearly the function of the pineal gland. But the difference is this, and this is something nobody really want to talk about. The more melanin that you have, the easier it is to access your pineal gland. That's a fact.
Say that again?
The more melanin that you have, the easier it is to access the pineal gland, to wake it up. That's why I say, regardless of what is over it, that's a physical thing that calcified it. However, your desire for light and your righteous desire for humanity has the power to decalcify it, to give you access to it. Any questions about that? That's where we are.
Yes, this is Angela. I had a question. I was ready to ask you that, what you just said about our desire, no matter what they put in the foods. It is our desire, because I was remembering when the COVID, when we was online and we were discussing about the fears that people had about taking the vaccination, and it was stated on the line that none of that wasn't going to happen, and we changed that the fears, and the same way that happened. That's why I was looking at it, but that it's by our desires that we can change it no matter what they try to do. And I was going to ask about the scripture, when Jesus, the scripture that says that it's not what goes into the belly. Is that the same as what you're talking about now, that defiles the man?
It's not what goes into the man, it's what comes out of the man, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That defiles him. That's not talk. That's a euphemism, not euphemism. I'm sorry. That's a, come on, y'all. That's a metaphor, right, for spirituality. It's not what goes in, what comes out.
Oh, okay.
If righteousness is within you, it will come out. If you absorb negativity, you can transform that if you choose to.
Yeah, that's what I took it to mean. No matter what is done to harm you, it can be transformed through forgiveness, and desire for mercy and love and kindness. So no matter what someone throws at you.
And this is the principal part of what we do and who we are. I've talked with people who struggle with the idea of melanin because it's been so politicized by people who look like us. Melanin is not a political football. Melanin is a spiritual reality. There is no life without melanin. And our bodies, this earth comes from the dust of the universe itself. Everything that's in this earth, everything that's in our bodies is in the universe. And the largest source of melanin is the universe itself. The melanin conducts energy. And the energy that melanin conducts is the energy of emotions primarily. Loving kindness, empathy, emotions towards each other. The melanin vibrates with the universe. Melanin has within it the propensity to stay in rhythm with the universe. And the only reason it doesn't is because the rhythm is altered by our thoughts. Our minds alter that rhythm. And when that rhythm is altered by our minds, that throws everything in us off. Even while we are on this journey, it throws everything off. When our minds are influenced by who we are, then our minds begin to vibrate with the universe as our spirit, our soul does. And we are able to then pass beyond those things that have been thrown at us from afar. Those things that have kept us in a place of bondage, we're able to break those shackles that are on our minds. The most dangerous servitude is the mind. And the only way to remove shackles from the mind is through your soul, your spirit. You can't do that any other way. And shackles on the mind simply is another way of saying that we have to rid ourselves of indoctrination. It's a process of deprogramming, to be honest with you. the Creator intended for us to be the programming code for humanity. But we have allowed ourselves to be programmed. But now we are in that space. Barbara said, we have Trump where we want him. We have this attitude. We have this energy where we want it. This energy is in a seat of power, but it doesn't realize that the power that is that in that seat is the power of righteousness. And righteousness is exposing everything that is not it for the express purpose of purifying the earth for the life of humanity. This idea of this attitude, think about it this way. If you list everything that will help humanity, most of which Kamala Harris delineated, and if you list everything that Trump talks about doing, it's simply the opposite of all of that. So what I'm saying in essence is this. This is an opportunity for that energy to affect every single life on this planet because of the different proposals that's out there. And with that propensity, it also has the power to bring everyone on this earth to a place where they say enough is enough. And they open themselves to something better. And that something better is in the macro. And in embracing that something better, that is when we begin to rejuvenate this concept of community. And we become one. I'm done.
What I hear you saying when you talked about the vibration of the universe is when our vibration is in sync with the universe, that's the same as you're saying, as above, so below. Okay. And then the rejuvenation of community in terms of love and kindness, working for the good of all, that's also in sync with the universe. So it's as above, so below.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm here saying absolutely, you're right. And I was muted. I sent you guys something that Charles sent me last week or during the week. As I said in the message, it's a bit wordy, but I think it's foundational for our next step in terms of the Shabaka stone. So if you get an opportunity to look at it this week, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
I have one other question. Pastor, a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that getting into all the sacred writings. Can you elaborate a little bit on what those are?
Oh, the writings on the Shabaka stone are sacred writings because not only do they explain or give idea of concept of how the earth came into being, it also gives us the concept of one deity that's called Netter, that brought everything into being. We call it Ein Sof. The Kemites called it Netter. It also gives us a better understanding of what was extracted from the Memphite writings, Memphite theology, and used in the different religions of the earth. So when I talk about the sacred writings, I'm primarily talking about what's written on Shabaka stone, because it addresses spirituality in a way that we have never experienced it before. But that's not the only writing. I'm sorry, that's not the only sacredness of it, because the Mayat is also on Shabaka stone, and pretty much everything that's on Shabaka stone was extracted and manipulated and put into something called the Bible. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the sacred writings. And when we look at that, our experiences will be different than what they are now, meaning that they will be understood better, and the wisdom that holds the universe together will become more clearer to us in a manner that we are able to teach it. One of the things about the Shabaka stone that I think is fascinating is that the Shabaka stone contains the Memphite theology, and it is from Memphis that Stephen came, the one who acquiesced to what Ptolemy wanted. The one who brought religion into existence was from Memphis, and he was privy to the Memphite theology, which means that he was also privy to what is on Shabaka stone, because the reason it was written on the stone is because it was written on the papyrus first, and the papyrus was deteriorating, and that's the reason that Shabaka really redid it on the stone for it to be preserved. So getting into that is going to enlighten us far beyond anything that we've thought of. At least that's what I believe.
The other thing about it is that some of that parchment was not discernible, meaning they could not, it had deteriorated so much. And that's why it's so important to be in rhythm with the universe, because it doesn't matter that some of that was missing. Truth is truth. And when it resonates, when you resonate with the universe, it's like filling in the missing gaps of what's not covered are located on that stone.
Right. And what we're going to find also is that a lot of the things that we have been talking about for the last year, and I mean literally the last year, we're going to find that a great deal of it is on Shabaka stone. Without us even knowing it. It was like we were studying Kabbalah before we knew what it was. And that's what's happening with this now. Thank you, Barbara Jean. Any other questions or comments?
Welcome.
Cameron.
Thank you. Well, if you guys are done, we'll wrap it up, pause here for the day, and kind of meditate on this. Also give the teachers time to look at that video. Hopefully we can discuss it a little further. Okay.
Right.
Hmm.
I say thank you, that's all.
Yes, sir. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to it tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Talk to you tomorrow.